Hello and welcome to Beyond Borders Briefing, where I bring you the top 10 news from around the world. Belarus nuclear threat. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko has warned that his country would use nuclear weapons in the event of aggression from NATO or the European Union. He said that Belarus has a nuclear button that he can press at any time, and that he is ready to defend his sovereignty and independence. Lukashenko's statement comes amid rising tensions with the West over his crackdown on pro-democracy protests and his forced diversion of a Ryanair flight to arrest a dissident journalist. Tenerife wildfires. Thousands of people have been evacuated from their homes as wildfires tear through the Spanish island of Tenerife, one of the Canary Islands. The fires, which started on Monday, have burned more than 3,000 hectares of land and threatened several towns and villages. More than 500 firefighters, supported by helicopters and planes, are battling the flames, which have been fanned by strong winds and high temperatures. U.S. citizen charged with espionage. A Moscow court has charged an American citizen, Paul Whelan, with espionage and sentenced him to 16 years in prison. Whelan, a former Marine and security consultant, was arrested in December 2018 by Russian security agents who accused him of receiving classified information. Whelan has denied the charges and said he was framed by a friend who gave him a USB drive containing photos of a trip they had taken together. Whelan's family and the U.S. government have called for his release and denounced his trial as a sham. Ukraine-Russia war. 2 people have been killed and 3 others injured in a Russian attack on a school in Romny, a city in Ukraine's Sumy region, near the border with Russia. The attack came as tensions between the two countries have escalated in recent weeks, with Russia massing troops and weapons along the frontier and accusing Ukraine of provoking a conflict. Ukraine has appealed to NATO and the US for support, while Russia has warned of a serious escalation if they intervene. Canada climate crisis. A new study has found that the climate crisis made the spate of wildfires that ravaged Canada in 2017 twice as likely, and increased the intensity of the fire-prone weather by 20%. The researchers used climate models to simulate how the weather would have been without human-induced global warming, and found that the probability of such extreme events would have been much lower. The wildfires burned more than 12,000 square kilometers of land and forced tens of thousands of people to evacuate their homes. Ecuador referendum. Ecuadorians have voted overwhelmingly to halt oil drilling in Yasuni National Park, one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, in a historic referendum that could set a precedent for environmental protection in Latin America. More than 90% of voters supported the proposal to ban any new oil exploration or extraction in the park, which is home to indigenous communities and endangered species such as jaguars, tapirs and pink river dolphins. The referendum was initiated by a grassroots campaign that collected more than 700,000 signatures to force the government to hold a vote. Guatemala election. Anti-corruption campaigner Alejandro Giammattei has won Guatemala's presidential election, defeating former First Lady Sandra Torres in a landslide victory. Giammattei, a former prison director and surgeon, ran on a platform of fighting crime and poverty, and vowed to end corruption and impunity in the Central American nation. He also pledged to review the controversial migration deal that Guatemala signed with the U.S. under pressure from President Donald Trump, which requires asylum seekers who pass through Guatemala to apply for protection there instead of in the U.S. Brazil activist murder. The murder of a prominent black community activist in Brazil has sparked outrage and calls for justice from human rights groups and politicians. Carlos Alberto Santos de Oliveira, 72, was shot dead by unknown assailants on Monday night outside his home in Salvador, the capital of Bahia state. Oliveira was a leader of Quilombo Rio dos Macacos, a rural settlement of descendants of enslaved Africans who have been resisting eviction attempts by the Brazilian Navy for decades. His death follows a series of killings of black activists and land defenders in Brazil under President Jair Bolsonaro's administration. China office fire. A huge fire has engulfed an office building in China's eastern city of Hangzhou, sending plumes of black smoke into the sky and forcing hundreds of people to evacuate. The fire broke out on Wednesday afternoon at the Zhejiang Yintai Center, a 40-story skyscraper that houses offices, a shopping mall and a hotel. No casualties have been reported so far, and the cause of the fire is under investigation. France airport name change. France has announced that it will rename its main international airport in Paris after the late Queen Elizabeth II, in a gesture of friendship and gratitude to the UK. The airport, currently known as Charles de Gaulle Airport, will be renamed Queen Elizabeth II Airport from January 1, 2024, coinciding with the 100th anniversary of the Queen's birth. The French government said the decision was made to honor the Queen's legacy and her role in strengthening the ties between France and Britain, especially during the Brexit negotiations. That's all for today's Beyond Borders briefing. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates from around the world.